This next course is just packed with stories. So many perspectives that we've gained through the research that have led to this course and the drink pairing that goes with it. People always ask me, what recipes did we find in the research? And actually very few. If you think about it, back in the 1820s, 1840s, why would they write a recipe down? Because if you're going to say, how do you cook meat? Well, you're going to throw it on the fire or you're going to throw it in the pot. And how do you cook greens? Well, typically you're going to boil them or eat them fresh. But here's another way of eating greens, and it's one of the things that we found the most common in the research. Mention of bacon grease drizzled wild greens. We're not quite doing that, but we're doing our play on it to make it contemporary. And so this is our house-cured bacon. It's a red wattle that we got from a local farmer. We cure it ourselves. It was smoked in a cold smoking process and now being cooked down to add on to the greens. The greens are sorrel leaves. Sorrels have a nice bitterness, but not too much. This is a good time for those of you who like to forage to go out and get some of those young bitter greens while they're still nice and tasty, and we'll be able to do that for another month or so before they toughen up. Also here, we're serving it with wheatberry, fried wheatberry. And the wheatberry is from Rick Davis of Oakland Farms, one of our favorite grain farmers. He's been providing us some amazing local organic products for the whole time we've been open. There's also on here a walleye mousseline, and walleye's fun for us because when we first put it on the menu, we had a lot of resistance from people in the Ozarks saying, this isn't native, how can you be authentic and serve this? And well, what's interesting in it is very native, and we know that because everything we do here is based in research. We don't just pick something out of the air and decide it's acceptable. Here we consulted with the Conservation Division, and they have a number of different write-ups about the native species of walleye that were in the Missouri rivers back in the early 20th century and before. And so here we do get our walleye and turn it into a mousseline, and that's our way of saying, well, do your homework if you're going to attack us, because we sure love doing our homework. If you're doing the drink pairings tonight, you're going to be served a Le Père Jules cider brut. This is dry apple cider. Apple ciders have a long history in the Ozarks, really after our time period. This is more late 19th century into the early 20th century. But there is still a good culture of apple farming and apple cidering down in the Ozarks, even to this day, especially with some really great varieties like the Arkansas Black. This one, however, actually ties into our wine program. It seems like an odd twist there, but for those of you who haven't heard, in the mid to late 19th century, the French wine industry was almost completely obliterated. It was obliterated by the phylloxera epidemic, and that's a long story. But Missouri had its role in causing the problem and saving the problem. Typically, we only tell the latter part of that story, and we don't like to say how we caused it. But we also did save the French wine industry, or at least in part or large part. And so this has been a huge part of our research. We only serve wines from the regions that we know were affected in a positive way and negative way by Missouri rootstock. And so this cider comes from one of those regions. Now, if you want to know more about this, because this is a meal, not a classroom, feel free to ask Jack for our white paper. We write a number of white papers on our research projects, and the wine white paper is the most developed of all of them. We're constantly adding to it, but it's a solid paper in itself right now. And so you can ask Jack, and he would be happy to bring you a copy, or you can email us later, and we'll share it via email. Well, again, enjoy your course, enjoy your drinks, and if you have any questions, let me know.